how much I've been looking forward to this. The Sinister Grace chapter, the first and only full original chapter 2025, is here. And I've been waiting so patiently to talk about its lore. It's been no secret that this was my most hyped release of the year by far. An original chapter based on Asian folklore with tons of gore and potential for lore. It was all right up my alley. And it made the wait for this chapter nothing short of agonizing. But for the most part, Sinister Grace was oh so very much worth that wait. A rich cultural background from a region of the world DBD's never visited before. Two fantastically realised characters, built into their setting in ways that make them feel organic and human, all tied together with immaculate animations, lore and sound design. It's got everything a high quality original should have. Except a map, weirdly. The only dark cloud over Sinister Grace was the PTB it was on. Outside of the new chapter content, patch 9.2.0 looked nothing short of apocalyptic, but behaviour seemed to have learned their lesson, for now, and allowed V and the Krasue to take centre stage this patch. There's so much to talk about with regards to the story and world building of this chapter. So much meat, if you like. And I'll be starting with Burong Sukapat, aka the Krasue, today, and we'll be covering V Bunya Sak in a video a little bit later, hopefully as soon as I can. In almost every way, the Krasue lived up to my expectations and hopes for 2025's only original killer, and the lore is no exception. So we'll be trawling through the story and world around the Krasue to get a grasp of what Burong Sukapat is like as a character, and see how well she lines up with existing Thai folklore and horror cinema.
That's fucking
Welcome, friends and foes, survivors and killers, to the lore of Burong Sukapat, the Krasue. We don't know a huge amount about Burong's early life. We don't know where she was born beyond just somewhere in Thailand. We don't even really know when she was born beyond a couple of small clues in her add-ons. But we do know a few things. She grew up wanting to be an opera singer, but despite her talent, her career never went off quite the way she planned. And despite the support of her childhood friend Janjira, she found herself desperate and at a loose end. Until another singer, Malai, darkened her door with an offer that would change her life forever, that she said would cause Burong's star to shine just like hers did. But it comes at a cost. Something else will inhabit your body every night while you sleep. Burong drank it almost without hesitation.
She still drank it, you dumb.
Gotta be worth a go, right? What's the worst that could happen? Burong starts to enjoy success immediately. The opera director loved the new depth her voice could reach, and she was in the running for a full leading role. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Burong started to cough up blood and woke up one night in the middle of someone's yard, covered in the bloody remains of a chicken. Burong called Janjira back up. Surely she was just sleepwalking, and Janjira being here might help her stay in bed and get some rest. That is until Burong awoke to Janjira's disemboweled and mutilated corpse.
Well, okay.
She wasted no time in finding Malai, who told
DBD has a real good job of or I guess whoever write these stories, because this is an original for the game. This got nothing to do with the mythological part. They have a real good job of putting our killers in situations where it's like you rooting for the killer. Because this girl wanted to be a famous singer, and then her friend, I guess, we're not calling her a friend in general, but her friend decided, I'm going to take advantage of this and give you a curse. Like, what the hell kind of shit? So then when she drank it, the friend continued the lie. It was like, oh yeah, you're not cursed, you're just sleepwalking. Then when she killed that friend, how do you think I feel? Like, come on, y'all. Come on, Mo. Like, I'm starting to root for rooting for the Palangalan right now. This is fucked up. I don't want to feel this way.
Her what she'd done, about the true nature of the potion she had given to Burong. Malai had given the elixir to Burong to pass the curse of the Krasue off of herself and onto her. She thought Burong's burning desire for fame would allow her to overlook the Krasue's hunger and pursue her dream. Unfortunately for Malai, she was absolutely right. The Krasue emerged from Burong's body and tore Malai to shreds, but when Burong awoke, she felt nothing. No guilt, no horror at what the Krasue had done, and seemingly no desire to get rid of the curse or pass it on to anybody else.
And then Burong
and that was the start of Burong and the Krasue's unholy partnership. The Krasue's influence saw Burong's star rising as she took centre stage for the first time at the opera. And Burong learned to live with the Krasue's nightly feeds.
If this is taking place in Thailand, Thailand has some of the worst bureaus of investigation. You mean to tell me, like, we seen 2 singers get disemboweled and we just rolling?
And its attention was drawn
not a
elsewhere
major news
by
story,
something
nothing,
offering the biggest
rocking with
meal in reality. The entity and the Krasue share a bottomless hunger. The entity for the pain and emotions of innocent victims, and the Krasue for their flesh, blood, and bone. It was a match made in the fog, with Burong taken along for the ride, and thus the entity claimed Burong Sukapat and the Krasue for its own. The first thing you might realise is just how short Burong's story actually is. It's only 700 words. That's longer than most of the lore we get for licensed characters, but much shorter than most of our recent original killers. As a point of comparison, Singularity's lore is 1100 words, and the Houndmaster's lore is almost twice as long as hers, pushing 1400 words.
Damn.
You might think I'd be very upset about this. If you know me, you know I love long, detailed stories that I can sink my teeth into, but I also know that, unlike you guys, I'm also paid to do this. If anyone is prepped to read a long bio, it's me. A lot of people cannot be fucked to read lengthy lore descriptions, especially when to do so you have to either find the wiki or deal with the 1001 Arabian Nights of scrolling when you're trying to read anything in DBD's garbage bio
DVD
client.
has the worst
So stories trending
for reading.
towards brevity might be a good thing to encourage players to actually read the damn things.
Love a tragic
And with the
backstory.
promises of
Why?
lore coming back in a big way this chapter,
was not a
we're
sentence
likely
you
going to
wanna
get
say out
more
loud.
detailed storytelling for Burong later down the line anyway. But the other reason I'm not at all worried about how brief Burong's story is because it doesn't come at the cost of realising her properly as a character. A good character bio in Dead by Daylight will always find a way to answer these three questions.
Oh, shit. Tell
What do
us
they
more,
want? Why do they want it? And what will they do to get it? And Burong's story covers the first 2 points within the first couple of sentences. Burong Sukapat operatic rehearsals in Thailand were a sea of emotion, but despite tiring efforts, she was unable to become anything more than an understudy. What started as a desire to share her gift became an unshakable need for fame.
I kind of resonate with this first part here. Burong, she wanted to be a famous singer, and she was just born in a location where operatic singing was valuable, but it's not what the world wants. You see, so like I can see how she wants fame for her skill, but you ain't gonna get it being a Thailand girl who sings opera. Like you gotta beat Beyonce and Lady Gaga, and they're not singing opera, let alone, you know, caring about their own culture. They do fucking anything for fame.
We have it in black and white. What she wants is fame and recognition of her skills as a singer, and she wants it because she feels underappreciated for her hard work and talents. These are traits that don't require much explanation. They're very common, normal things that most people want in their own lives at some point in some way. Recognition for their skills, hard work, and talent. And that means the core of motivation is outlined very cleanly, very early on, so we can focus entirely on the third question. What will Burong do to get what she wants? At the start of her story, Burong is a pretty pitiable character. As our protagonist, we're already set up to view her sympathetically or in a positive light, as she struggles with recognition in her career. That is a relatable motive to do anything, and her decision to drink Malai's mysterious potion isn't portrayed as an act of selfishness. If anything, she doesn't really know the implications of what she's doing until much later on in the story, so we might be set up to see Burong as a victim of Malai's manipulation. It would definitely be in character for a female killer in Dead by Daylight to be a victim of circumstance, of other people's choices driving them on the path of a killer. Almost every female killer, and a good portion of the male ones, became who they are because someone else changed them into the mold of a killer against their will.
That's a very good point.
Whether that's in a story like Hags, which is literally just a victim made to suffer, or one like Houndmaster, where Molak killing her father drove her to a lifetime of bloodthirst and vengeance. The only female killer who doesn't fall into this bracket at all is the Skull Merchant. She's a self-made woman in every sense of the word.
Is literally
and at first glance, Burong looks like she'll fall into the regular hurt people type category. But as we'll see later, that isn't entirely true. And we start to see it when she enlists her friend Janjira to help her sleep. When Burong wakes to find what's left of Janjira splattered across her bedroom, she reacts in much the same way any of us would. She's mortified, shocked, upset, just sitting there stunned. But I notice there's one emotion she doesn't seem to feel at all. Guilt. After all, it was her actions that indirectly killed Janjira. She knows all this started when she drank the potion. She ignored the warning signs like the bloody cough, and she leveraged their friendship to put Janjira in harm's way. She may not have intended to, but she is on some level responsible for what happened to Janjira, and there's no sense of her understanding or internalizing that. The story doesn't draw attention to it yet, but Burong is already set up to not really internalize her role in Tanjiro's death
What's going
yet.
on? Thanks for
And this
joining.
sets up what will happen later when she
Sweet.
goes to see Malai. The meeting with Malai marks the first time that Burong truly understands what's going on, and the first time we get to really see the Krasue possessing her in action, ripping Malai apart and leaving Burong standing over the pieces. And Burong, for the first time, truly understands the cost of what she's done to herself, and she seems to feel nothing. At least not until the director calls her back and tells her that she got the part. At the end of the day, it's all worth it for Burong to finally get what she wanted.
Damn, that's fucked up.
She's seen
Alright,
the
so I can't
worst
root
of
for
what
this
the
killer.
Krasue can
Alright,
do to
cool,
people,
cool. They level
whether she
set
wants
her.
them dead or not. But she's
evil.
decided she can live with it. She doesn't care to stop, even though she has that choice to.
This is kind of how most
Malai
serial
passed the
killers
curse on to
started.
somebody else. There's every chance she could do it too, but the choice never even seems to occur to Burong. She's getting what she wants out of the deal, as the Krasue's gift bestow her with a better singing voice. She doesn't have to go out and kill anyone herself. The worst she has to worry about
Man,
is
would you
cleaning
turn
up
into a
sometimes,
Krasue?
or coughing up blood, or bits
Success?
of meat every so often. Maybe waking up somewhere she didn't expect to be. Burong is not a violent serial killer, but she is complicit in what the Krasue is doing on some level.
'Cause they're
and has
basically pointing
decided
out
it's an
Burong is
acceptable amount of
okay
loss to
with
be
this
responsible for, so long as she gets what she
is
wants out of the deal.
Way more fucked up.
This is
than
quite
anything.
unique as far as DVD's killers go.
Because that means she's
Many
not even out
killers
here
are
like
fairly
infecting people.
clean-cut
She's just like,
victims
oh,
of
I got a
circumstance, like
superpower.
artist or spirit. These
The
characters
other
are
girl
often
tried to
very
get
easy
it
to
off of her
relate to
and
or
wound up
sympathise
fucking it
with,
up,
but it
but
can
she's like,
require
"Nah,
a
this
leap
is
in
cool, this is
logic
my buddy."
to justify their presence as a killer, and how good or bad the law winds up being tends to depend on whether or not they can actually
Yeah,
stick
like
that
these
landing.
two killers right here.
But
he
many
made a good
others are at
point
the opposite
right
end
there.
of the scale.
Like
Very
those
leap in
two right
logic.
here, they have very traumatic stories that make them the victims. So if you read about it, you'll more so like just be like, oh, they're understandably evil. Like that's cool. But then when you start getting into like they're evil and
Justify their presence
find
as
out
a
they're
killer,
evil, and
and
they're
how
cool
good or
with the
bad the
evil.
law winds up being tends to depend on
that's a
whether or not they can
different
actually
mode.
stick that landing. But many others are at the opposite end of the sympathy spectrum, larger-than-life megalomaniacs like Skull Merchant and Doctor, who kill people for the love of the game, or who at least use their jobs as an excuse to indulge their desires for violence, domination, and cruelty. That can be a lot of fun to watch, but runs the risk of making your killer feel one note, like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, although sometimes being cartoonish is kind of the point. Burong's moral dubiousness is quite relatable by comparison. We all have an acceptable level of suffering we're okay with inflicting in the background to live our lives. We might eat animals that we know died to feed us, or drive cars we know are polluting the planet, buy smartphones and technology we know are made by underpaid child workers in a factory halfway across the world, or buy the last pack of bog roll at Tesco knowing the next poor person coming into the store with a bathroom emergency is going to have to make do with kitchen towels instead. Burong's morality is an extension of that. It's simple, realistic, and understandable, without being in any way justifiable. She sees the Krasue as a separate thing from her, and doesn't seem to take responsibility for what it does. Whether or not...
I think that's the craziest part about this story is that she wound up just kind of developing a relationship with the curse. That's the trippiest part. But make sure you check out my boy Pixel Bush and subscribe, because his channel is full of that lore, and it explains most of Dead by Daylight in a way that other content creators can. They can tell you how to loop and all that other cool stuff, but they won't tell you about the game. So Pixel Bush, check them out.